Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoy our shows, please like our videos and subscribe to our channel. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And you can support us via PayPal, Patreon, Bitcoin, and through our website, ageoftruth.tv.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's the 15th of December 2020, and our guest today is a young man from Romania, educated in business management at the Romanian American University in Bucharest. He is a DNA activator, healer, and mental trainer, working with entrepreneurs, artists, and creative performers all over the world. He's also a truth researcher and geobiology therapist, clearing EMF radiation and environmental pollution. And as a coach and teacher working with spiritual cleansing and DNA activation, he helps with trauma integration, higher self-embodiment, human aura energy measurements, personal sovereignty, and demonic possession. Catalin Tomescu.
How's life today, Lucas?
Good evening from Copenhagen, Denmark, and even more good evening to you, Catalin Tomescu, joining us from Bucharest, Romania, as you're 1 hour ahead of us here, who's on Central European time. We are very happy to welcome you to the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Greetings, Lucas. Greetings, Age of Truth TV team. You're doing a wonderful job, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you. We have many topics to discuss with you here today, Catalin. Also within the field of truth research and obviously your fascinating work as a DNA activator and even working with spiritual and demonic possession. But let me first begin by asking you, what do you consider to be the greatest problem facing people in the world today?
Touché. That's an interesting question because what we see today in the world is a lack of self-love. We see with so many realities upon which we see that many people can't act from their own hearts, can't focus on their own hearts, and they are rather focused on surviving, not thriving. They're basically focusing more on their egos, not on higher values. And this is what I think is the real epidemic, the epidemic of ego and not in self-love.
So what would you think would be the best thing for people to understand right now as we are approaching Christmas and New Year's Eve 2020? This has been a very difficult year for the entire world.
This is a pretty interesting question because we see a lot of people getting into the traditions of Christmas, and with these disproportionate measures that are coming into place, it seems that people have a reasonable way to do their traditions and promote their traditions and sing around the Christmas tree and probably dance around the Christmas tree and getting together on Christmas. And I think that most people that really enjoyed past Christmases, they will enjoy this party too. They will do it definitely.
Well, they're actually trying to prohibit and prevent families from being together, very many people, especially also here in Denmark. I don't know what it's like in Romania, but the health minister came out, even the prime minister here in Denmark, and said that we should really not dance around the Christmas tree, which is our custom here, and definitely not sing the Christmas carols and the Christmas songs. People should hum instead. And if there are elderly people here, they should wear 2 face masks. What do you think about this?
Well, that's crazy. I mean, um, you can't do that. I mean, it's not reasonable unless you're on some sort of mind control mechanism that you start doing whatever abusive stuff it's telling you to put the 2 masks, and that's crazy. I mean, it looks crazy from any angle you would see it, but as far as we are concerned, we need to thrive having this heart-based connection, heart-based living, and this heart-based living has also gives us the opportunity to forgive, to live in the now, to let go of attachments and let go of expectations about how the reality should be and how we should live our life, right? Because if you're living from your heart and you're not necessarily living from an extreme rational logical mind, and you're into your feelings and you're going deeper into that, because you start feeling a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment, and a sense of peace. If you start feeling this inside in your reality, in your life, and you make your life as being as enjoyable as possible, and you focus on this every single day, and you close out any negative fear-based driven mentalities and frequencies and relationships even, then you can start live in your own heart-based reality. And I think this is one of the biggest secrets that is almost inaccessible to most of the people, because as I believe we will go today into the subjects of implants and energetic seals that seal the heart from opening, I think once you start seeing this reality unfolding and you start seeing how you could live from your heart instead of living from your rational, logical, fear-driven mind or ego, that's when things can start to change. And to be answering your question, of course, if you are living in a fear-based reality, that's when holidays could go wrong, right? And you could, not necessarily enjoying the Christmas as in other years, enjoying like the snow, enjoying if it's snowing in our part of the world, right? But we should enjoy this. We should enjoy every single day, not just Christmas. And I think it's our motivation. It's our source of power. And if we look at this at this way, we are far more better than listening to the news and going into these stories.
Perhaps people should actually enjoy it even more and put the emphasis on being together and spreading love and focusing on that with those you are close to. But do we actually need to raise our vibration, or is everything already installed within us, within the DNA and maybe within the soul structure, meaning that perhaps what we need to do is to break through the barrier of amnesia, through the programmed barrier of amnesia, and open up through deprogramming, wake up, as it were. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we are driven by our perception, and our perception is creating a reality. So if our perception is driven by old indoctrinations, old mental programming, old basis of trauma, and all sorts of misunderstood events and role models in our society, especially cartoons, old cartoons, and especially sex industry or alcohol industry and or tobacco industry or fast food industry. The last three alone, the tobacco, the fast food, and the alcohol industry, this is like 20 million of human deaths per year industry. So this has been much more. This has had more negative effect on human health than any other disease.
Well, nobody really died from watching, well, sex, right? Or maybe, but it could become, an addiction, right?
Such as the alcohol and cigarettes, of course. If you watch something that is not evolutionary and it's not serving you, of course you could take whatever it suits you well, right? Or whatever you need from that experience. But if you identify or create a relationship with the self that is watching this this programming or is experiencing this programming, that is what should go. That is what you should let go if you really want to tune into this heart-based connection with yourself.
But do we need to raise our vibration? A lot of spiritual teachers have talked about this, and you've also mentioned it a lot in your work. What is it to raise our vibration? Or is everything installed but forgotten through this amnesia programming? Whether it's done by entities or, of course, the collective mind control through our environment and community and politics and, of course, food and the media especially.
Well, we are thriving through raising our consciousness. Expanding our consciousness would be a more accurate description. Many people are familiar with this term of raising vibration, but I think it's not necessarily technically accurate. So therefore, if you would clear yourself emotionally and mentally of past programming, of buttons that has everyone and everywhere around you is pushing you. If you are willing to do the work with clearing this from your field, from your DNA template, then it's far more enjoyable to live from a heightened state of awareness. And this state of awareness is actually available for anyone that is willing to access that. But we are preconditioned, or at least humans are preconditioned to follow up with their past, not necessarily cutting the ties to the past, not necessarily parking the past, but actually they have a relationship with the past that they themselves have invested in energy, attention, they've created attachments, they clinged on to past identities of themselves being in that sort of past. for example, the childhood, or for example, the school, while we were at school, and while we had, for example, role models that were not for our best interest, that were not, having a more open mind or a more expanded consciousness, that, we as students, we are absorbed by intuitive intelligence, right? We are absorbed by whatever we feel dragged to, because we feel that we can learn so much. And I think that if we are not living from the heart and living from our ego and from our sense of personal power only, or from a sense of surviving or thriving physically, and not expanding on the upper levels of our awareness, then this limits our consciousness expansion. So as being in this field of interest since 12 years ago, I've been starting noticing changes in the DNA template after it has been activated. I started becoming more interested in Buddhist meditation from Mahayana tradition. And then I discovered more about the DNA activation. And back in 2008, there was not so many people mentioning about it, or there were not so many articles on the blog related to this, right? So I became obsessed on how we can change the morphogenetic fields, the bioenergy fields that surround us, to make an impact on our blueprint, on our template. And I truly believe from this experience, that anyone who is willing to do the work and change its own vibrational structure, then we would have a different effect on our minds, on our physiology, on our emotions, on our intents. They would begin to get traction and manifest more easily. And I think that if we would raise our frequency, we would definitely expand more on positive evolutionary emotions, such as joy, honor, truth, and bliss, and acceptance, or forgiveness, or being in a state of presence, or being in a state of ecstatic state.
But you just, you talked about a template. Is that something we're born with, or is it like a soul template that we've had all through our different lives on Earth, through the reincarnation cycle here on Earth? I mean, you are a DNA activator. So what specifically is DNA activation? You talk about re-imprinting the DNA, new consciousness, DNA activation, and cleansing from traumas in this life, holding us back from using our full potential, and also past traumas from past life experiences. Please tell us a little bit about how all of this works.
Well, DNA activation is a transformative experience. Can be experienced similar to ceremonies in which you get into visionary states. You start having all sorts of understanding and acknowledgements, and as we can say, downloads from the higher self. And these experiences are unlocking our selves, because the DNA activation works on the bioenergy field level. This bioenergy field level has been associated with the term of morphogenetic fields, like the fields that instruct the matter what it needs to do. It instructs the cell on the human level, and instructs each cell with each specific function, and that this is how actually cells of the body, knows and gets its intelligence, right? Because we know that the human body is a programmable machine, and we can program or reprogram our consciousness with divine templates, downloaded from source God energy, source God, very pure fields of energy. And this was my field of interest in the last 12 years. And since then, I started working with hundreds of people that felt the attraction of doing such a thing, and training them and doing intuitive healing sessions with them. And this is so fascinating, because this has been my life's work. This has been my personal attraction. And I've noticed that many people had been suffered from similar symptoms that I had, symptoms of feeling blocked or feeling the same traumas repeating in our minds. And people would get a lot of release experiences that were driving miraculously themselves into the next level of their lives.
So many things that are holding people back can actually be from past life traumas, not just traumas from this life, or what?
Yes, definitely. The term referring to past lives, these are actually referring to simultaneous lives, because all lives are connected to the same DNA. It's not a DNA here and there, it's the same DNA in all lifetimes.
So the same template, you were just mentioning the template. So it's the same one, or do we get a different one each lifetime?
Well, the DNA has been found that we have certain black holes in our DNA template. And this is fascinating because it was associated with time travel and with getting memories from another timelines that are still affecting us in the present moment. For someone who is searching their way out of this conditioning and fear-based reality, and looks forward to enjoy a blissful life, or basically express their innate gifts and talents in this lifetime, they definitely should look into this DNA activation experience, because it is so fascinating to see how fast can a trauma be released, how an imprint can, that has been affected their lifetimes. Now it's starting to release. They start dreaming about it. They start realizing about it. They start looking at it in a different way, and start to experience life in a higher frequency way, where they can express more emotions of joy, acceptance, recognition, humility, if that's the case, and they start getting into this blissful state, which I think this is the case. This is the right path. If we are not living from such a joy in all of our lives and in every single day, then basically life is just a waste.
So these black holes you're talking about in the template or within the DNA structure, even going back all of our past lives, or they add something to every lifetime, or what? But we also talk about all of these lifetimes that we are experiencing are happening simultaneously. It's happening right now, actually, because time doesn't exist when we go past the three-dimensional existence that we are experiencing now, being in a body vehicle. But these black holes, are they also what you call source or God made, or are they made or created or hijacked by dark entities such as demons, archons, jinns, you name it?
Well, the DNA structure is a very powerful mechanism. It's also the conduit through which source God energy can manifest here in the physical life. But between these levels, there are also other forms of intelligence. There are other forms of existence, of living beings. And these are associated with other races that have been directly affected the evolution of DNA on planet Earth since many years ago. And this has been practically introduced in these moments, in these years, in these time cycles of our evolution on Earth, as they manifested as implants and energetic seals that lock the DNA template from basically absorbing light and being a bio-battery for high frequencies, not just not just of frequencies from what we desire to be, but also frequencies from the higher self, from higher level of our awareness. These frequencies, if our vessel is clear, these frequencies can activate the lights in our being. And these lights are actually, you can imagine as having a house with 12 rooms, for example. And because the DNA template is on templates of 12. If you are an indigo, then you would have 24 strands or 48 strands, but this is more rare on Earth. But most people have a 12 DNA template strand, and this basically translates to human angelic DNA template. And if we would have 12 strands of DNA activated, then we would be able to become immortal physically. At least if we raise our frequency in our bodies enough, above a level of 6 density, then we would be able to not age, and we would basically be able to reverse aging.
Sounds good to many, huh?
Yeah, of course. And
no need for plastic surgery anymore then, huh?
well, plastic surgery, it's such a different story, because every material that you put into your body has a specific resonance. Anything that is in your body has a resonance. And if your body has a high, it's having a high frequency, or has raised its frequency enough, then the body will be immune even to viruses and parasites, and could be immune to even negative energy or black magic. And you would have the awareness to not make mistakes, or to not make karma, to not judge yourself or others, and to live in a heightened state of awareness.
But aren't we here on Earth to learn from our mistakes, to make the mistakes in order to experience what life is? This is a playground. Life is about learning and experiencing. Because we can't experience in the same way when we are in our state of awareness, of consciousness, the soul being, not in this three-dimensional realm. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we actually can make mistakes if, for example, we understand that there's a lesson that needs to be learned, and or, for example, we know that it's not good to eat fast food, or we know that it's not good for us to, abuse alcohol or cigarettes. But if we are still doing it, it's like we are creating imprints in our DNA template. It's like we are co-creating karma, and for these reasons, we can say that we would make mistakes, right? Of course, we can learn from drinking alcohol, or we can learn from addictions. We can learn from codependency. We can learn from toxic relationships. But what if we decide now that it's time for a change, that it's time to wake up, that it's time to raise up? Or what if it's time for us to actually ascend to another dimension?
But I mean, it's okay to have some wine with a nice dinner on Friday night, right? As long as it doesn't become an addiction, you mean?
Guilt-free works best. In terms of having a cup of wine or a beer or something that suits you well, that's great, right? But if you feel inclined to it, and you feel like your state is depending on it, then that's a totally different story.
So you just talked about plastic surgery, and people would not need that, which has become an addiction to a lot of people here in 2020 and the previous years. We see that in Hollywood, of course, a lot. But you actually talk about something else. You talk about psychic surgery. You call DNA activation for psychic surgery, which can change people's timelines, you say. A deep experience into the human psyche. But this sounds almost like some kind of mind control, actually. Is it a bit like that?
Yeah, that's pretty much like this. And if you thought about the last example I gave with the plastic surgery, I mean, there's a movement of women now taking their breast implants out because they are making them ill and sick, and it's causing unknown inflammation in the body, of course. And if they would go to, to make their blood tests and everything, they would not say their inflammation is there because of the breast implants. So in this case, I would highly suggest, following your own intuition on how to do it, or what to do. And in terms of psychic surgery, that would be so beneficial, because you could extract or make a surgery on imprint or on spiritual causes that makes you feel uncomfortable of being the way you are, and not and the sources of not feeling that you are perfect as you are right now. And
But
if you're
if I
looking
could
at
just
the
intervene quickly here, Catalin, about the plastic surgery, and you talked about breast implant, but what if a woman is very, let's just be blunt here, is very flat-chested, and she's not very happy with it, that is lowering her self-esteem, she doesn't feel good? Isn't that a personal choice to make the breasts bigger or whatever people want? Isn't that a way of enhancing their the joy in life in one way or the other?
Of course, is great. In terms of not being an abuse or abusing this type of surgery, that would augment your beautiful parts, and that would augment your body, that would augment your presentation, that would augment your self-trust in terms of a relationship, for example. But you are definitely set to know that you are perfect as you are, and any thought you might have that you're not perfect, or any thought or feeling that you might react to it and not feeling, positive, and not feeling confident in your own body, and probably you would judge yourself, and you would look to yourself in the mirror, you would express it with so much emotion that if you would do that, and expressing a negative emotion, for example, you would create an identity, would fracture your soul's energy, and that would, not be for your highest interest. But if you would do this surgery and plastic surgery, and you would introduce something that would be, beneficial to you, not causing inflammation, of course, that would be awesome. But there's so much education lacking here that everyone needs to follow on with their hearts, with their own intuition.
So back to the psychic surgery you were talking about, and I was asking if this is actually a tool for mind control which you can use for good. But if you can use it for good, isn't there a chance or a risk that you could actually use it for bad when you have the ability to work with DNA activation?
Well, many years ago, I had a negative experience with someone that she tried to clear my head of something that she saw or that she felt. And I didn't believe in her that she had this ability to, to help me with something or do something to me, at least without a touch, right? And in less than 1 minute, I almost fainted, and that created a lot of thinking around how this bioenergy stuff works. I mean, my grandmother, when I was so little, she showed me her hands, and she told me that our hands have bioenergy. And the more I grew up, the more I learned and started becoming very, very interested, started doing the research, and eventually I became obsessed how to do this perfectly, because we are trainable. Even clairvoyance is trainable, as the remote viewing files have shown up. That's trainable clairvoyance. So in terms of psychic surgery, where people request this remotely, the way it's happening is that, for example, you could be driven negatively by some entities that have been attached to your field, and that would create a lot of things in your body, a lot of muscle spasms and a lot of discomfort and interior conflict. So in terms of psychic surgery, what I basically do is that I intuitively connect to my clients over a distance, because this is the safest way to do through the higher self, which we are every single moment.
Not be in the presence of the person physically, so they can feel your energy next to you while you do it. Is it too risky to be with people?
No, it's not. I mean, not in the way I work with people. I can't see how that can be risky if we are connected to our own divine intelligence, and we stay connected to that divine intelligence, which we are on all levels of awareness. I mean, in this way, the DNA acts as a conduit and acts as a connection from the physical realm to the emotional realm to the spiritual realm to higher frequency energy realms, as layers, just like an onion. So what we want to do is basically connect on, or basically reconnect to source on all levels of awareness, not just 3D, not just being four-dimensional. And there's a lot of misconceptions about expanding our consciousness and becoming a 4D and 5D in this type of realm. There are also distortions in the 4D and the 5D, because on the 4D, for example, we have the astral realm, right? And on the astral realm, there's also negative entities, discarnates, probably people that have been passed away in all sorts of accidents, not knowing how to go to the field or to the realm of forgiveness to get that their life review, and probably reincarnate to solve their karmic imprints that have been passed along generations. Actually, there's studies that show how people actually on mouses, there were these researchers done, and they've seen how mice would know from 12 generations how to solve mazes, for example. They would been let go in mazes, and they would know how to complete the maze up to 12 generations plus. So that's amazing. That's a reason to believe that genetic memory has been passed through the DNA, through their informational fields, up to 12 generations. And this is fascinating. And in terms of psychic surgery, basically when an imprint shows up, or some thought form or a negative emotion that has been kept in their bodies or in our bodies, it can be released by intent. And you can do this on the nervous system level. So from the mental or mind level, for example, where there's an intent, you can go down to the physical level, down the levels, down to the nervous system level. And the nervous system is so intelligent. When it is activated, it starts to release that. And if you're doing this from a distance, then not from a distance, meaning there's no touch involved. I get people that meet me at the office, and the procedure is the same. It doesn't matter how far we are or how close we are. What does matter is that we establish a heart-based connection, and this way anything is more coherent.
So you have to be very responsible in your work when you work with this kind of energy, in order to determine whether or not you're dealing with good forces or bad forces here, so that you don't, let's say, open a portal to allow, let's say, dark forces to enter these people, because it's the opposite work you're doing, cleansing it and removing these dark entities. How can you actually, with discernment, how can you determine whether or not people are, well, possessed by demons or archons or these beings? How can you know?
Basically, with experience, and the more you clear yourself, the more intuitive you become by natural design, the more you clear your informational channels, your energy channels, the more open you become, the more you get, the more glimpses you get about someone, about yourself, and it's quite a journey. Usually things show up, and when things show up, you start reacting at something, or you feel that your buttons are pushed.
So do you feel it energetically, or is it a download? Or do you have clairvoyant abilities, or are you a medium as well, so that you can sense this and feel it?
Yes, I have developed this sensitivity, and most of the people that I interact with, they usually open themselves to me, right? And because there's a safe place going by, and through this connection, we can start getting all sorts of glimpses of what's happening with us. And usually I don't spend much time reading people, because when they open themselves up, it's usually very clear upon that they want or need to do. And for most people that I've met and that I know, just a simple clearing in their energetic field, such as a complete auric clearing, would solve their issues, would solve their problems so fast. Because it's like we tend to wash our bodies all the time, but what if we would do the same with our auras, right? What if we would do the same with negative things that we've brought into our lives? What if we, as empathic people, and I speak this from the name of people that I work myself with, and most of them are empathetic people. They are feeling this empathy and this connection, and they start having all sorts of intuitive feelings about the others, and they want to help others. They want to be their best version of themselves and expand on the heart level more. And probably they want to expand on the mental level as well, on the intuitive level. But what needs to be done is usually on the level, on the lower levels of our awareness. This is where is like a foundation for a house. And usually when people have past traumas, that's a playground for entities. And these entities are like thoughts that start pushing in your mind, start anchoring in the nervous system. This is very interesting, because once an entity is released, the contracts between the soul and the person, it's usually dissipated. It can't manifest from nothing, and that's when the entity is released from the field of the person. The field of the person is usually the attractor for the entity.
So can you mention some examples of clients you have had who were possessed by these demons or, well, demonic entities? What were your experiences? And is this connected to what we hear from, let's say, the Catholic Church, and they talk about exorcism? Are you some kind of exorcist, Catalin?
That's a real Hollywood type of scene, but in reality, working with people that deal with these sorts of entities is not that dramatic. It usually shows up in their lives when other people or other situations or events trigger them in a way that they start to act without being conscious about what they act upon to. So when an entity is released, usually the person feels it quite strong. And I had an experience with someone that it was so unusual, and it was even for me hard to read or get into the zone with this person, because she was a prosecutor. She was a German prosecutor, and she was a woman, right? And being a woman in the position in the world filled with men, it basically tells you that you have to adapt as a woman, right? It's quite a hard thing to do, but somebody has to do it, right?
Well, unless she's more masculine in her personality structure.
Yes, she has to be. She has to
Or
be.
maybe she is already to even choose this line of work.
Yeah. And thing is that after quite a few years later, when we usually see that we get in a plateau where we are fulfilled. We have a nice house, we have a really nice family, and we have everything that we've ever done. But for some reason, we can't get past this plateau. And that's when, we start feeling some sorts of sources of unhappiness. We identify them, or sometimes we just don't know why we are not happy, why we are constantly feel drawn, feeling down, or feeling the lethargy, or feeling that we can't express joy in our life, right? And when I met her, she was having this poker face, right? I could not see nothing through her. She was scanning me, of course, because she didn't believe this is actually real. So I invited her to do a clearing with me. So I just sat there with her. And while we were doing this, she felt all kinds of releases. And she also felt tinglings in her body, and she started seeing things and experiencing things from other levels of her awareness, which she is not. I mean, most of the people are not used to transcendental experiences. Most of the people do not have transcendental experiences, do not have visionary experiences. So usually it can happen for a person during this type of release to start getting glimpses of their past, of their issues, of their something that they have been identified themselves with. So I had another person. She was a colleague of mine, and she was just finishing these courses of healing. They were quite famous name, and she had this issue that she couldn't go on an elevator for months, and she actually chose to get on the stairs for 6 levels in her apartment block, and she actually have been doing this for months. And she asked me that what do I think about it, right? And I started introducing very easily this conversation with entities, and she asked me that if I could do anything, and I said, sure. You want to try? And she said, yeah, of course, let's do this. And in 10 minutes she was able to get out of this relaxed, deep state of awareness that I've been guided her into while I was doing the clearing. And then I invited her to go to the elevator, and she was able to jump in it immediately without feeling anything in her body, without feeling any fear, any anxiety upon it.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's a wonderful example. But what entities was she referring to? Do you know that? I mean, I guess people don't come to you if they have wonderful, kind, and good entities attached to their energy in some kind of way. It's usually the bad ones that you deal with, huh? If we're talking about entities. Who are they?
These entities actually draw themselves to a lower energy field, to a lower vibrating energy field. For example, if you lack self-love, you will be having fear, right? If you, for example, meet with a group of people that they usually live in fear-based mentality or have some sort of unconscious fears, if you are sensitive enough, you can see that your heart is beating much faster, or you can basically see different mental images in your mind while you are being in their company. For a person that has suffered or has gone through some sort of accidents or trauma, they have this imprint of traumatic experience in their field, and they want to express more empathy. They want to express more understanding. They feel more magnetic and more open to any type of learning, and they usually start helping other people as empaths. Thing is that when we stay in that state, and when we are open energetically, we can become food for entities, because they feed on our emotions. And on empaths, there's also another phenomenon that it's happening, meaning that they open portals in their chakra system. And these chakra systems are very complex in terms of when you have an energetic opening there, you start to absorb in your chakra the negative energy from environment or from other people. And this is usually a form of mind control, because you tend to be controlled by the environment that you're in, or by the negativity that you have absorbed in your field. So this leads to different type of decisions in your life, to different type of mentality, or different type of openness that you express. And this leads to sensitivity, to sensibility, not sensitivity.
But who are those entities? Where do they come from? If there's source, God, the force, whatever people call it, why would that good force, source, energy allow these dark entities to come into this realm and possess people? I've asked a lot of people about this now, and it would be wonderful if you, who are working with DNA activation and healing from that, if you feel you have an answer to this. Who are those entities and where do they come from?
Well, they usually come from the lower astral realm.
Is that the fourth dimension?
That's the fourth dimension. It's similar to the astral world. So
is that also where people talk about the reincarnation, white light soul trap that a lot of people call heaven, which is the white light with a tunnel of light, the life review, going back to earth in a new body with a white memory? We've talked about that a lot also on the show, and people talk about that you should turn around and not go through this tunnel, but go to a golden light or wormholes or something like that. We can enter that subject as well. It would be interesting to hear your thoughts on it. But is that also happening in the fourth dimension? So that what we need to do is to exit and bypass this fourth dimension at the point of death. Is that where all of these beings come from?
Well, most of them come from there. They usually stick to the emotions, and these entities can also be a human-like or a non-human-like. They usually can be a glimpse. They appear as a glimpse, not appearing as videos and very detailed, but you actually get glimpses of them. And when these entities are activated, most of the people can feel that. It's feeling like discomfort, or feeling like another voice. Usually hosts feel that there's an entity without knowing there's an entity, but they hear themselves or experience themselves behaving very differently than they behave in normal life.
You're talking about people suffering from schizophrenia or other mental disorders also here, right? Hearing voices. You have even mentioned that there's a special DNA activation point or something in the gallbladder, which is archontic or, well, demonic, or what? Can you please explain that?
Yeah, so these entities and this way of responding to events without you knowing why you said or why you have behaved in a certain way can be extended much more than just being in schizophrenia example. What I mean by that is basically that normal people could experience a sense of anger, of rage, or frustration, or a feeling of not feeling quite quiet in their mind. They feel a sense of restlessness and the mental agitation that's coming with it. And this is also usually it's coming from imprints and entities. That's very normal. I mean, many people live with these kinds of entities. They do not necessarily stay in their field, but they attach to their field.
So it's not about being schizophrenic, huh? And have to go to a mental institution. That's the extreme aspect of it, or what?
Usually schizophrenia and bipolar and another type of neurological symptoms, these are actually linked to soul fragmentation, and there's also some experiences of trauma that have been previously experienced and not released, not healed, not forgiven, not blessed. So they continually can create chaos in the lower regions of the body. For example, the colon and the digestive tract, because that's where most diseases come from. And if the field around the colon is not working great, the colon can't regenerate itself. The cells of the colon can't regenerate itself. So that's why you might need some spiritual intervention to release that, to release those emotions, to release that caught energy in it. So in terms of psychic surgery, I also have encountered a situation where during my early childhood, I was experiencing a lot of drama in my family home, and I was witnessing a lot of negative conditioning that I've seen as a part of a dysfunctional relationship. So seeing my parents in this way has created a profound effect on me, because I was and I'm constantly feel dragged into harmonious situation. I'm like a harmony detector, right? And all of my childhood and my teenage years and afterwards, I started getting more and more in contact with harmony inside and outside. So I was also experienced that voices. One time I heard voices in my house while there was no one there, but it was some sort of field of energy that was in the house, and I would basically able to hear those voices quite loud. And so I went out and checked the home, and it was so empty, right? And that's when I started asking the real questions, like what's the real source of this?
But it was not in your head, you say? Or it was not inside of your head, hearing voices?
It seemed that on the physical level there was quiet, but I was able to tune in and hear that somehow. And that was really strange, because I was, I was starting to begin to believe that I would be on some sort of neurological disease. And fortunately, I helped myself to clear emotionally and mentally out of this past situation, that so that in my future years would not create chaos in my life.
So it was because of your childhood trauma that actually, it was because of this that you went into this field, that you went on this very, very interesting path. But what you experienced in your childhood, that was actually trauma, was it not? Were you abused and beaten as a child?
Well, I've gone through these experiences as well, and more negative than the physical abuse was for me was the psychological abuse. In terms that I felt that I was so limited because I was not feeling loved or appreciated, or I was sometimes I didn't trust myself because I didn't had someone that supported me and my way of thinking, because my way of thinking was onto this etheric sciences, which involve, for example, quantum physics and the science of the numbers and the quantum field and mind over matter and all sorts of like this, right? And I totally get it, because it would seem very strange for someone that would not create or would not have a relationship with this type of stuff. So basically healing myself through this trauma and through this negative programming from my early childhood actually helped me so much and made me pursue this road, this experience to help myself, and also have people asking me to help them with this, because I believe I reach as a state where it's more easy for me now to be human and to live life and to regain to a sense of normality after all this stuff, and actually prosper, actually become more sovereign and have a control on my mind. And you talked earlier about the gallbladder meridian. This is a thing that I experienced after a while being in this field. I was becoming aware of a deeper level of understanding on how voices in our mind work and how unconscious fears appear. And I talked earlier about the implants and the energetic seals in the body that actually could provoke sensations of negative dreams, sensations of abductions and fears.
What do you mean sensation of abductions? Do you mean abductions by extraterrestrial entities, aliens?
Well, when this happened during dream time, how can you know for sure, right? How can you know for sure that this is happening? Because you experience this in a dream. It might have been possible, or it might have been a nightmare. Of course, if there's a lucid dreaming, that's when things, you start asking questions, and that's when you should ask yourself or your higher self and sense if you have been implanted with something. That energy implants are very are very normal, and if you would ask your higher self, then you would know. In terms of the gallbladder meridian, I found that there's a parasite there. I've experienced its extraction after an event of a very nice event in my life that has happened. I discovered that there's this implant that is creating a voice in our mind, in our perception. And this voice is actually tuning into our physical voice.
What voice is that? And how and why and how come is that implanted in our gallbladder?
I'm speaking about the voice of the implant that very similar to the voice of us. It's actually it sounds the same, but it's not the same.
What is it then? What is it then specifically, would you say?
Well, that's an archonic device. That this device, it's actually like an artificial intelligence because it mimics your own voice and it creates a perception for the host that it's yours.
So are you linking the Archon existence, which is interdimensional, and supposedly, or actually they do say, lots of people who have researched this and experienced this, that the Archons can take form in a person if they possess them. But are you linking the Archons, demons, to AI, artificial intelligence, and then in a human form linking that to this implant in the gallbladder?
Yes, that's accurate. I'm definitely linking that because our psyche, it's so complex, and when this implant goes activated, it has its tentacles in the gallbladder meridian, and it's in the skull region of the head, right? Around the ears, and we know that the gallbladder meridian acts as a conduit for energy entering into the physical system from the fourth dimension through the meridians, and we see that a lot of people have these kinds of voices, and when they start doing something in terms of clearing these types of implants, or clearing themselves from different energy seals, their levels of internal peace expand so much more, because that's when our energy system begins to work great, to work normally, to become functional again.
But what kind of implant is it? It's not a microchip, I guess, a physical one. It's a DNA implant. Is it a metaphysical implant? How would you describe it?
Well, as being an similar to a live entity, this entity has its own intelligence in terms that it mimics the voice, as I said. It mimics the voice in the head, and it will seem that you hear the voice in your head, and it's quite diminishing sometimes, or it can sound very strangely, like you would have some sort of attitude around it in your life. So it's replicating an attitude. So these attitudes are not normal, are not source driven or source created. When I first experienced this, I actually saw something in that very moment. I was for the first time I was able to experience this entity, how it talked, and it talked through my voice. So I was listening to my voice, and then I started thinking, since when my voice is talking like this? Because our own higher self, our own presence, doesn't talk like this. It was a talk that was very aggressive in that specific moment, and then I started asking questions because that was not normal. So soon I got to the point where I found out about this and done the clearing, and then I started to experience a different level of peace in me.
So you cleared this yourself in the same way that you also cleansed yourself and did your own DNA activation after the trauma you experienced in your childhood. You did all of this yourself without the help of a psychiatrist or a therapist
Exactly.
or anything like this. How could you, I mean, what kind of being are you then if you have the strength and the knowledge and the awareness to do that at such an early age? Do you think you may be an indigo child yourself?
When I first heard about the indigos, I felt an attraction that I couldn't describe, because that's when I heard that, and I researched about it more and more, because I found that the indigos are supposedly to raise their frequency, to embody their soul's mission, which is being to transcend their experiences in the life, in the childhood. Many indigos are being born in that dysfunctional families in order to heal themselves and to heal their karma. And when I got into this conversation for the first time, it was like a alarm signal that woke up in me. I never recognized such an endless source of questioning in myself until then. So that's how my search started. I was for the first time knew about the missions of the indigo. And to be honest, at the beginning, I didn't have any reaction out of it in terms that I didn't believe, I didn't want it, I didn't allow myself to believe such a thing, because I didn't want it to be driven by my ego, to know, oh, so then I'm an indigo and then I'm special. This is not real. This is not, this is not enlightening.
But you must have felt you were able to cleanse yourself at such an early state and create even this field of work with the DNA activation. And you've done that for a long time. I believe you said 12 years. That meant you must have been around 20 when you started working with people there, right?
Yeah, I was around my 20s when I started experiencing these transformations, and knowing that I was an indigo was not something that satisfied me, because I knew I had to work more around it, because you have a lot of work of deconditioning. We have to do a lot of work of dehypnotizing ourselves. And you know, probably this seems familiar for many people watching this, because there's also there's also many spiritual techniques and spiritual traditions and psychology systems that would allow someone to get a new programming. And this is happening not so well, because people have their own internal programming before they install a new programming. Let's say you go to make a hypnosis, to have someone, a professional, hypnotizing you and install new beliefs in your system, if that's what is required to do. And it will install a new belief system upon other belief systems that have not been cleared from your field. So I discovered in the DNA activation process that all information is stored in our fields. And if we work on that biofield level, on the morphogenetic level, then we can go to the quantum source of whatever is happening or whatever we are experiencing and we want to move away from that.
So were you able to heal yourself from this soul fragmentation or this trauma that you experienced as a child?
I experienced this soul retrieval. I tell you one happy story that I always feel inspired by. This has happened quite a few years ago, where I actually had a new bike and a new mountain bike. I also do mountain biking, and I love climbing the mountains and descending in high speeds, which is totally unlikely the way I work when I'm on deep meditation. And after 1 month, my bike was stolen, and was stolen so fast that it seemed like a test to me. And I'm pretty much obsessed on testing stuff and doing, the best I can to do some sort of miracles happening, because I truly believe in miracles. I believe that miracles are have frameworks, right? I mean, miracles are based on universal laws, and there's no such thing as luck or some things like that. And I had this mountain bike stolen, and then I started thinking to myself that I could retrieve my stolen bike back just by using my mind. And I thought to myself that if the DNA activation really works, then I should manifest through my intent my bike back in 7 days or less. And that's when things really got on a deeper side of life, in terms that I did whatever I could in physical means to get my bike back with no success. So here I was 7 months later, having this new experience of life in another city, as I was getting out of Bucharest, and I was in the mountains area.
You actually lived in those quite famous spiritual, mythological mountains called the Bucharest Mountains. Am I saying it correctly?
The Bucharest Mountains, yeah, that's accurate. There's a famous plateau there that have certain properties, and it has been linked to all kinds of bioenergy improvements to the body. And to get back to the story with the mountain bike, I was 7 months away, and I was still not getting my bike back like I wanted to. But I didn't give up. And one night, after this 7 months, I did a soul retrieval to myself. So it was like energy blockage clearing that I've done in the night time. And then the next day, I had to go back to Bucharest and stay in the city and do some sort of things in the morning. So that specific day, I got back to my house. That's when I started looking at my clock as I parked the car, and I was about to get into the house. So I looked my watch, and then I saw that it was 2 p.m. So I thought it was earlier for me. It was early, so I had to do something else. I felt to leave. I felt to turn my car back and just visit someone who lived close by. And I went ahead and I went for another 100 meters by car. And that's when I saw a guy on a bike that was the same model I had. So he was going on the other way. And that's when the parasite from the gallbladder meridian got activated. So I started to hear a voice in my head that talked to me and talked very intimidating and said, don't go back. Don't try to get that bike back, because you'll get another bike back. You'll buy another bike. You'll get a better bike for you. which would have different characteristics and would be better for you this way. And it was intimidating, that voice. So that's when I started thinking, this was happening in a second, that my actual voice, it doesn't speak to me like this. My higher self or my soul doesn't speak to me like this, in this way. So it had to be some sort of error. So I decided to do the opposite. So intuitively I knew, but there was this voice that actually wanted to prevent me from getting the bike back, which was quite unusual, because what I did was actually not following the voice in the head. So I actually turned the car away, go after this guy, and I just prayed to myself that he would stop.
Were you afraid of confronting him and tell him, you stole it, now return it?
I was guided by my intuition, so I was not afraid. I had no reason to be afraid. So I just prayed to myself that this guy will stop and I would solve the mystery, right? Because if this was my bike, then I would have the most amazing experience of manifesting by intent, right? So this guy had a sticker on the bike. I was able to see it from my car as I was, observing him. So underneath this sticker was a scratch, a deep scratch, and this deep scratch was actually my bike scratch. So here, like this, I could recognize it because it was not having any serial numbers.
So it was yours, and then later on you got a new one.
This was actually my bike. So I took it from the guy as I was able to stop him very gently.
Oh, you did?
Huh. Yes, I did. I stopped him and I talked to him. I told him about the situation. He bought it from another place, but I had the invoice from it, which stated that the bike was mine. So here I was, after 7 months, I got a stolen bike back, which in Bucharest, at least in Bucharest and in my country, there are less than 1% chances to take it back or to find it.
But have you yourself ever seen manifesting physically, demonic or archontic entities in front of you, or ETs maybe even? Have you seen that yourselves? Beings from elsewhere or other realms?
That's very interesting talking about it, because I most of the time I get impressions when I'm around people. I get impressions of their attitude, and I started to get an impression on entities or on whatever it feeds a negative emotion or feeds some sort of event that feels uncomfortable and creates muscle spasms. I'm pretty much kinesthetic, so sometimes my body would react, and I think this is something coming from the nervous system, because this is where everything is wired, in the nervous system. So if
you react to human beings energetically, feeling that they may be like possessed, but you haven't actually seen an otherworldly creature, an interdimensional figure in front of you, taking physical shape.
I started seeing them many years ago, and there was one being that have appeared in front of my face, and at least it was in my mind, in my perception. There was this being, this amazingly vividly colored being that was having releases of golden flakes out of the face, and I was able to experience the living lights that was emanating. And first I thought this being was me because we were so similar. I was able to see it, the very top of the body, and it was a very pleasantly experience. I never experienced nothing like this before.
Was that something you experienced during a, let's say, taking ayahuasca, for example, or any what they call plant medicine? Or was it in your natural state of being? And from what you're saying, this appeared to have been a very positive being, right?
Yeah, that experience, that was experience while I was sober. I was not into any ceremonies, and I was not into any type of visionary plans back then. I started having this experiences without any without any ceremonies or planned allies. So I also started to experience auras around people I've met. And there was this particular time when I was meeting with a friend, and I was changed my life. I was in a time where my life was changed. I was detaching myself from anything that was causing me limitations, and I started doing very good in my life back then, and I was feeling content and feeling connected to what I am and what I do and to my mission. And I started getting into a state of creative flow, we can say that. And my life was going really, really good. And I've met with a friend, and he we didn't hold contact for a while. And when we've met, he was into he was in a state of not in a gratitude state or not in a joyful state, but he was in a state of anger and frustration, and for some reason it was projecting it to me. I started to notice a glow around his body, which was a red-like type of energy. And first I didn't took this into account because I thought I was not seeing it clearly, or that I was expanding my consciousness and I was getting in a dream state or something like that. It was having all sorts of crystals and objects, energy objects around him. His redness glow around his body started to expand, that he filled the whole room. And I was in a state of awe because I never saw things like this before. I was thinking to myself that I knew myself being more logical and rational, probably because of my gender, that's being a male dominant, rational and logic. But I started getting into this intuitive side of me that I resonated so much. And since I started having all these experiences, many other things started to happen with my life, and I was able to pursue better directions for me. I was starting getting unstuck and starting having success with other people.
So this was obviously a positive experience with this friend of yours, and he had been very, let's say, negative, and then you transformed his energy.
I actually didn't interact with him. I don't interact with people without me, without asking me.
So was it a negative or a positive experience?
It was a very positive, because I was not getting into his projections of fear and of frustration and anger.
But it was in order to let you see and understand the mechanics of it, was it? Actually,
yeah, I think this was a beautiful introduction for what was about to happen afterwards.
so what about shape-shifting? A lot of researchers into the field of conspiracy and truth have been talking about this, those who also talk about these otherworldly beings. Have you seen any shape-shifting, or, I mean, people also talk about eyes can shift.
People usually have black eyes or appear, at least in my experience, I get to notice black-eyed people, which are normal people, but they have entities that's activated in them. It's like awakening their negative entities from an event that triggered them, for example. And that's when I started noticing black eyes or black spots around their eyes. And this is usually a sign to, walk away for me, or do not get involved, or do a protection, something.
So you have actually seen human beings whose eyes have shifted and become black, turned to black.
I seen them in my own house. So yeah, I pretty much see this stuff. This is how I recognize them. And growing with people that have no clear eyes, at least in my view, in my experience, this is a sign for me.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about, you talking about this gallbladder implant, Archontic AI, artificial intelligence implant. And we talked about all of these dark, demonic entities that are possessing people. But what do you think is the real reason of the current world crisis due to the COVID-19 coronavirus and the global lockdowns and all the political fears? Do you think that this, what people call a plandemic, do you think this is also part of a dark ritual created by these elitists that rule the world behind the scenes in order to create an international, global and collective fear to possess and open portals into the psyche of human beings in general, those who are not awake, those who are not onto that there could be something very wrong going on, and it could be an orchestration from behind the scenes?
So this subject introduces us to mind control and spiritual possession, astral possession, or occult possession type of conversation, because when this has started happening, it didn't started happening in 2020. It started happening so much time before. There was also examples of an exercise of a pandemic which happened last year.
Event 201 at the Johns Hopkins Institute by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, yes.
Yes, and this has also linked to them the Johns Hopkins University, and people reading this stuff and the titles such as World Health Organization, it feels like very pompous, very royal, very, very human oriented, but it looks like there's some sort of programming. The octopus is so big, and it has its tentacles, and in all society structures, so that normal people can get blinded by the titles, by these names that seem very big and very credible, right? And it looks like these conspiracy theories have proven themselves to be conspiracy realities in terms of energy entities and fear-based mentality that have been bombarded the psyche of people, of normal people, people that have no interest in politics and pharmaceutical industries, and have no interest in global world domination. And these normal people, and as I experienced this year, I actually met with a lot of people that had these experiences of weird fear and weird sensations in their body, and some of them are not and were not able to concentrate and do normal stuff because of the programming they've been subjected to without seeing, without noticing, without looking at the media or the news, or at least they try to stay away from that. And it looks like there has been some sort of fear grid happening in the collective subconscious.
Do you think that is connected to electromagnetic frequencies and the satellite grid around Earth connecting 5G, what they say is connecting to AI eventually?
I have learned details about electromagnetics. I have been researching this for a few years now, and I also studied with an academy in Austria that measures these electromagnetic frequencies that are absorbed in the body at any given time. So knowing how radionics work, the phenomenon of sending an energy at a distance, or connecting mentally an object to an intent or to a person with an intent, this is actually very possible.
Phased arrays or directed energy weapons, or even what is known voice to skull technique. People also call it the voice of God technology, which was used during the Gulf War and probably in other wars and in many other situations as well. This is a kind of electromagnetic frequency mind control technique. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, it can be very possible when it's used in this direction. This is not a new technology. As you said, it's pretty much from many years ago. And people that are connected to their hearts and they live from their hearts, they can't be broken. At least not that easily. You can't break down someone who is sovereign.
So people who are sovereign, you can electromagnetic frequencies cannot affect the cells and the frequencies in the bodies of those whose, let's say, use that term, whose vibration are on a higher level, so to speak.
Yeah, when you're having a high frequency, that's when you don't experience low frequencies, emotions in the body and in your daily life. And this is how you are incorruptible, because if you are connected to your light and you know how you are actually, and what is your connection to your higher self, how is the connection to your higher self looks like, then it's very difficult for you to be corrupted, because you will lack fears, you will have more courage, you will not have self-trust issues, you will not have issues communicating your value or communicating what you need to speak. At least when a person doesn't have any noticeable implants, or doesn't have any negative entities, or doesn't have any opened portals from which negative energies can penetrate their field, you are more structured. Your DNA is more symmetric, and it creates more electroconductivity in the body.
But you also, in your work, cleanse people from electromagnetic radiation, EMF radiation as well, right? Such as even 5G radiation or 4G, 3G, whatever we are exposed to, so that it does not harm or affect the cells in the body too much, right? How do you do that?
I help people find solutions, and I help people purchase whatever they need to have, for example, a canopy around their beds that it's very beneficial. It's like sleeping in a Faraday cage. This is how your life, your regeneration during nighttime is actually happening. Because when our cells are exposed to different high-pitched frequencies during nighttime, when you sleep and rest, and you have all these tiny parts in the brain that actually regulates the whole body during sleep, and actually creates very healing experience while you're asleep. If you are exposed your tiny glands in the brain with Wi-Fi or satellite frequencies or 5G frequencies, this would eventually cause a breakdown in your system, because you are supposed to heal during your sleep. But if your healing gets interrupted by foreign signals, then your body doesn't recognize them, because they are not natural or source intended. So the body doesn't recognize and doesn't know what to do with this.
So you also work with tools, and we want to also see some of those. And I guess we can, you can talk about how they can shield people from either radiation or anything else, bad entities. But I also just want to mention, when you talk about clearing people from electromagnetic frequencies, you even cleared your own baby, your son, when he was born from EMF radiation. Was that just after his birth, or what, not to damage the nervous system?
When my wife was pregnant with our baby, we decided to go to the house near the Bucharest mountains. We had a beautiful house there, and we decided to stay there until at least until the baby was born. I actually cleared the house, not my son or anyone. I was able to clear my house of the issue because I had the device, I had the knowledge, I had the experience how to clear this as the electricity not causing any problem.
And when you measured it again, then you could see that the house was actually cleared from these frequencies.
Yes, that was actually measurable, that I could see afterwards the value of the electromagnetic frequencies.
And you work with tools. Let's see them, and please explain about them.
So one of the tools that I use most of the times are the Tensor field rings. I actually have met the wife of Slim Sperling, which is the inventor of these tools, as I place this copper ring. They are cut at specific lengths that are named as qubits, and these qubits have a specific property. Is like if you have a superconductor wire, you can cut the wire to a certain length, and then you would transfer a frequency. Is like you're tuning in the car radio and you're switching to to a radio station. You would tune up to that specific frequency, which is a luminous frequency, is a frequency that has been also found in the king's chamber in the pyramid of Giza. So while I'm putting this ring up, there's a field of light coming from the inside, from the center of the ring. So if I'm putting this over a glass of water or a bottle of water.
Can you try and put it a little bit in the middle of the picture? No, the other side. Yes, yeah. more to that side, yes.
So you see that there's a twisted wire. This actually helps the energy field to go in both places, above and below. So if I'm directing like this and I'm setting an intent to help everyone release any blockage they might have, or at least enlighten their consciousness in the most favorable, pleasurable way, it would beam that over the distance. I've actually done this a lot of times with my private group in Romania, and they felt the notice. So I can actually place this over over blockages, over accidents, whenever we have fell down, whenever we hit ourselves, or if we have an inflammation. Just by staying in this field, it tends to act more on the physical level, and you would achieve a recovery much more quicker. And speaking of a recovery, around 7 to 8 years ago, I was used this coil. In Romania, our ancients were known as the Dacians, and they have been found golden bracelets that were very similar to this type of coil. Many people have asked me if this is like a Dacian bracelet. Probably they were cut to certain dimensions as this one to have an effect on its power. So I would also use this. I tell you something really, really cool. I would use this to people, for example, who are like very old, and it's not easy for them to recover from certain symptoms they might have, right? So when I use this coil, I would use this side to push in to absorb negative energy, dark gray clouds out of their emotional field. This is actually a more direct experience for people that are visiting me. For example, bones can heal very fast, or places that have been broken, or any types of physical symptoms are relieved very fast after you clear with this. It's like a vacuum, like an energy, like a bad energy vacuum. And on this side, this is the side that it's bringing in luminous energy back in.
And do you use your own energy, put that in while you hold it? Or how does it work in a practical way?
For someone who intends to, for example, have a healing practice, or just doing by themselves, they can use intent when they are using any tools, not just these tools. I find these tools very, they pick up your intent very fast, and they tend to work with your intent. So for example, if I put this over a streaming, for example, and I put my intention to clear whatever symptoms people might have, it will release that very, very fast.
And have you had many good experiences with that, many testimonials of people feeling cured or helped from their situation or whatever problem they've had?
Many people in my groups, yes. So this is a harmonizer. This acts as a field harmonizer. It works on many levels, and it has an effect of reducing air pollution and as well reducing criminality in the cities where this is installed. By having a harmonizer like this in the house, it is very beneficial for your well-being, and it might release unseen blockages from your house and from your field.
And please hold it into the center of the picture so we can see all of it. Yes, now we can see all of it. So this is like an energy machine in a way.
This is energy harmonious energy projector. It has in the middle the coil, which is similar to this one, right? And it has the rings, which are similar to this one. So it's basically a combination out of it. You can experience its energy when it's out of the ring, and when it's put it like this, it tends to hold in its energy inside. This is actually a more powerful version of a harmonizer. You can wear it, one little harmonizer at your neck, and feel protected by entities, by negative beings. It will help you to express better and feel more confident and more protected when it's needed. It actually picks up your consciousness, so you can hold it in your arms and set an intent and or work with your healing, and it will accelerate whatever good intent you might have.
So people can get these tools, or how can they work with them? I mean, if they come and they have a consultation with you, or they are on one of your courses, or an individual consultation or therapy, they can experience this, and you can use this on people to relieve them from pain or these entities and activate the DNA and everything we've been talking about today. But how can people have such a necklace that you are wearing, or can you, and also the final question, can you do this online? Because you also have a lot of online courses. People can actually look you up, and they can have a consultation with you via Zoom or via Skype as well, right? And that works equally as good.
Yes, people benefit so much from these remote experiences. Even if they would be with me in the office, we would have been treating the same in terms of releasing the negative energy. You can experience this from the comfort of your own home. And if you want to purchase these tools, they are also available on my website. And during a
please mention your website for people.
The name of the website is Activare ADN.ro, which is DNA activation in Romanian.ro. Romania, because this is my first website. This is where the store, the shop for the tools is, and during a consultation I can advise anyone on what tools they might need.
But can people also find information on your website in English?
Yes, this will be available for anyone searching the website in English.
And they can also arrange a time for you for a DNA activation and a consultation by contacting you via your website. How do people contact you?
People can contact me through also through my website and through my Facebook or Instagram pages that I openly share, and they are publicly available for anyone willing to hop into this experience. And I also have private groups where I do trainings, and I demonstrate over digital recordings how the healing energy and DNA activation are basically digitally recorded inside the digitally recording. So anyone who would play this, even as a replay, would get the benefit out of it. So our goal is to raise our frequency and raise the frequency in our communities, so we can raise our consciousness on all the globe. Because once you get your field clear, then you start embodying your higher self. That's when your innate gifts and talents start to show up, show up as intuition sign, as synchronicities, as a really interesting manifestation that people have in their lives. So everything comes naturally.
What is your best message for people listening to this and having heard at least a portion of your interesting story?
Everything is possible once you start creating it as an emotion. And once you get into this feeling of possibility and you start having this focused intent and you feel it in your heart and you allow it to happen, it starts manifesting so fast. So everything is possible. You just have to follow your own intuition. If you would do this, if you would follow your own intuition, that's when miracles will start to happen in your life.
Great. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful and really enlightening and fascinating to have you on the show. And I want to thank you, Catalin Tomescu, mulțumesc, for being on Age of Truth TV.
Thank you so much, Lucas. Thank you so much, Age of Truth TV. It's been a wonderful time to expand on these conversations, and thank you for bringing this light to the world, and thank you for your service to humanity.
Mulțumesc. Thank you so much to Catalin Tomescu, and thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website as well. You can also find us on BitChute and Dacian. On behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.